Okay. All right. I hate to say this, but sometimes I do hear the voices in my head all the time, and you know, some people might call that psychic. I don't like that word. I like the word prophecy better, and I think that in end times prophecies come back and open back up, and I think so many of us can tap into it. It's like piano lessons. You know, some people have the knack and some people don't, but we all have the ability. As a child, I've always seen faces in the wood, but I didn't think anything about it. I can remember probably when I was maybe before 2 years old, like laying on the bed napping and looking at, you know, the headboard and thinking it was talking to me, you know. That's an early childhood memory, you know, but I thought everybody did that, yeah. And I'll just start coloring in the lines, you know, the wood lines. So, and, you know, of course, I can attribute that now to when you are that young, you know, spiritualists will say that, you know, young children can see these things and they can feel these things, and it's possible I did. Well, in poetic terms, I saw the travail of my own soul. And so the Ramsus and Mabris on the wall over here, that is a ram and a fairy. And to me, I know it's a little strange, and this will be the really weird part, but it kind of reminds me of me, because I'm the little fairy, and because if you notice, she's like the mother figure. She's pregnant, and she gives birth to a ram. Fairies are shapeshifters, and that would be the only small thing that could give birth to something so big. I think that is kind of how when I draw, that's how it comes out. And it also, if you notice, it comes out in my writing also. All of them knew how things came to be, how things will happen too. Because of the seasons, we will all change, she knew. She knew that we came from the juice of our own stew. When I lost my job in Boulder after 9/11, I felt so desperate and in despair that I started reading my grandmother's Bible. I found my grandmother's Bible again. I ended up in the book of Isaiah, which I found out since a lot of ministers here, they're calling through Isaiah 61. And I heard that call. I heard my grandmother speak to me, and I started hearing her voice and voices of other, you know, in my head. I hear the trumpets, I really do, you know, and so, but it turned out that really, you know, in some ways I think it was trumpets for me, but it wasn't like the big trumpets, you know. So often I'll get a strong feeling. So I would just not think about it, just say the first thing that would pop in my mind. No, I can go ahead and start right now. First of all, I want to tell you, is there an older man that may have passed away, maybe when you were a teenager, right?
Yes.
A grandfather or an uncle.
Yeah.
And so at first I kind of thought it was like I learned the trick. You say, okay, they both do this, they both have the same name. And yeah, that worked. But after a while I realized that wasn't just it. The more I did that, the more I really did begin to hear and see people and names that there's no way I could have connected right at that moment. He stands behind you. It's so funny because he kind of has gray hair. He looks kind of like you. Kind of like you, only maybe he was a little taller, a little, or maybe it's you that's taller. I'm not sure which one. One of you, you know. When I was working at the La Quinta, and I can't remember if they were Seegerville policemen or state troopers came in, and they were looking for someone in the Seegerville area, a young man who had molested a young girl, and they had a picture of him. And I just got the strongest doo-doo-doo-doo, you know, when they showed me the picture, and so I was very embarrassed, and I thought, why are you doing this, you stupid woman? But I told them, you know, sometimes I do psychic readings, and I said, would you mind if I made a copy of this? And if I think of anything, I'll call you. They're like, we're desperate, so fine, you know. And after they left, I just kept hearing my mommy tell me, call his mama, call his mama, call his mama. And who's David?
David?
Mm-hmm.
There's a few, I know a few Davids.
I just had a name pop in my head named David. Somebody feels like he's in trouble. And so I stupidly got on the phone and said, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'll never see these people again. I said, all I'm hearing is call his mom, call his mama. And they're like, well, we already did that, and he's not there. I said, well, is there anything else? Which way should we go? We have no idea which way to go. So I said, rock wall. And the only reason I can tell you that is because I was seeing a picture of a rock wall in front of me. So this is my box.
Okay.
And I keep certain things with it which are spiritual to me. This is my Annie, who passed away last year. And she goes right here. couple months went by, and some people came into the hotel to check in. It was a woman, and I got to talking with her and kind of did the same thing. You know, I said, oh, you have 3 kids, and I went through the, you know, and pulled out some of her qualities and her kids' qualities. She said, oh, then you should meet my youngest. This is just, I found this for 50 cents at a garage sale once, and I just, reminds me of Indians. And this is to make sure that all this comes from heaven. So he walks in, and he said, do you remember me? And I said, well, you're familiar to me, but, you know, so many people come in here. He said, well, I was with the detective. He said, I was with him when he came in, and we were asking about the boy that, you know, molested the little girl. I said, oh. You know, I said, what happened with that? And this is most important. This is for fire protection.
Yeah.
So he said, you were right. He said, we found him in Rockwall. Said, and his mother had just moved back to Texas. She was renting a house in Rockwall, and he was hiding in her house. And, you know, freaked me out, you know. They said, how did you know? I said, I don't know, you know, and that's the truth. So the only thing I could say is, you know, I don't know, but I do know, because it's not me. You know, that's exactly how I feel. It's not some weird spirit guide over here. It's God. It's the Holy Spirit. It's Jesus. It's my family that's with them. That's exactly what prophecy is. Let's look at words and names. One of the biggest people that spread Hispanic around, Santa Ana, right? What is the name of the winds that are tearing up the California coast right now? Santa Ana winds. It's not like I think that that's like a ghost of Santa Ana, but it's a spirit. Like when we say the spirit of Christmas or the spirit of this, it is the spirit of that. It was prophesied, people have been seeing it, it's that time. But all of these things came together, I think, to open me up back to what I used to think as a child, that there was, you know, that there was a purpose that I had. And what else is what's the name of the other big weather thing that's causing the havoc on the other side of the earth? El Nino. What does El Nino mean?
The boy.
That's right. And so what I decided to name the ministry, which I've been trying to start for the last few years now, is the Advent of Victorious Angels Loving Our Neighbors, and which comes out to Avalon Ministries, which I like that word. It's very cool. See, you have to look at those things. You got to look at the big picture, not just these little things. You got to say all of this is happening. We've got this name, and I've got goosebumps now. That's what always happens when it's like, so. I think all those things are important, and I think that people that when we start to realize that, that's when we will evolve to the next step. If I can help someone, if I can touch, if they can read one of the poems or something that I've written and say, I feel like that too, you know, then that's a connection for them to reach out to God. And I feel like at this point, that's what my ministry is. And whatever other path I'm led to will come when it comes. And a new revelation will come to us all, and we'll begin again, this time with fairiness to all. And thank God, thank ancestors, thank family, father, mother, brothers, sisters, and fall on our knees and know this is the kingdom.